What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Dineen, and this is my review of NXT No Mercy, which took place September 30th, 2023. Now, if you've caught my AEW Collision review, that also was on September 30th. So needless to say, closing out the month of September was very, very busy for me. Enjoyable, but it was a late night, that's for sure. NXT No Mercy took place in Bakersfield, California from the Mechanics Bank Arena. This was a 7-match card with one pre-show match, 6 on the main. And let me just tell you guys, for those of you who did not see NXT No Mercy, and even those that did see it, then you already know this show was amazing. The last 2 matches, specifically for the NXT Men's and Women's Championship, delivered beyond, without a doubt, beyond belief. Both rematches, right? The first one being the NXT Men's Championship with Ilja Dragunov, who ended up defeating Carmelo Hayes, finally getting that NXT Championship. This rematch that we initially saw in July at the Great American Bash even exceeded that match. That match was great. And then the women's match that we saw just 2 weeks ago on regular NXT television, Becky Lynch, when she defeated the champion at the time, Tiffany Stratton. This match was great too. This Extreme Rules match where Becky Lynch did in fact retain, but Tiffany, if you did not believe in Tiffany Stratton prior to Saturday night, you do now, because she is just not all about the look and, you know, the whole makeup of her and her entrance and her persona, and that she could talk pretty good on the mic. No, Tiffany Stratton could go with the best of them. She is essentially, don't let my cute face fool you, because damn it, she is destined for the main roster sooner than later. She could easily hang with any of the girls on Raw or SmackDown, guaranteed. So I was pretty sold with her match a couple weeks ago against Becky Lynch, when she lost. Unfortunately, lost this one too. But look, it was close. So obviously, we're gonna get to the whole entirety of this review. I'm gonna go over all 7 matches. And before I even get to the pre-show match, I want to talk about the opening graphics for No Mercy, right? So this pay-per-view hasn't taken place in quite some time, but I love the opening to No Mercy, where each opponent for their match was selected as a player from the throwback WWF video game, which is so cool. I want to say this game specifically was for N64, Nintendo 64, so I wasn't very familiar with playing this one. I was more of a PlayStation guy myself, so I was very big on the whole Warzone and stuff like that. But this was cool. Crazy how time flies. You know, these graphics at the time were amazing, right? Late 90s, early 2000s. And it's almost like in the late 90s how we used to make fun of Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo for their graphics. And then looking back at this, it's like we thought we had it all. And now most graphics are so lifelike. I'm not a big gamer myself, but I'm familiar. And you know, the graphics now look like the actual game, right? You put on a football game on any given Sunday, and it looks like what you're playing with Madden or something like that. Crazy. So let's go to the opening matchup that we had for the pre-show. We had Blair Davenport going up against Kelani Jordan. Now, I believe this was Kelani Jordan's first pay-per-view opportunity. So this is big. Even though it's a pre-show match, this is big. Huge audience, huge arena. It's not in the regular Orlando Performance Center where it only fits, what, 100, 200 people. So this was good for her. So in the early going here, Kelani Jordan took a nasty spill to the outside. It looked bad. She caught her knee in the ring rope after Davenport knocked her off of the top rope. So that looked pretty bad. I'm glad to see she didn't tweak her knee or ankle or anything. She was able to, continue on for the duration of this matchup. Jordan had a very impressive showing. So win, lose, or draw, she was doing her damn thing. She's got the confidence, and she's getting better every single week, whether it's on NXT television. You know, I follow her on social media, even these NXT house shows. They pretty much only travel throughout, all Florida. They don't travel state to state. But when they do the house shows, she's getting her reps in there. So that's really good. I know she's went up against the likes of Cora Jade and so on in the past couple months. Jordan had a very impressive showing, attempted a split-legged moonsault, but to no avail. Blair ended up countering with a double stomp to the spine. Davenport drove Kelani to the center of the ring to score the pinfall victory here. And post-match, we saw Gigi Dolan attack Blair Davenport in their never-ending saga of surprise attacks week after week. And it was said at some point during the No Mercy pay-per-view that those two will be having a match this Tuesday, Blair Davenport and Gigi Dolan. The match that they were supposed to have last week, but Blair ended up attacking Gigi, and so now they're finally set to have a matchup. And I don't know if that's going to be the end of that feud. I highly doubt it will be, but maybe it will. So moving on here to match. Well, this is actually match number 2, but match number 1 of the main card, I guess you could say. We had Bron Breakker going up against Baron Corbin. As you remember, if you saw NXT this past week, or even listen to my review of NXT, that's how the show ended. Right? They met a couple of times throughout the show. They had to be broken up by security and so on. And even towards the end of NXT, they made their way in the parking lot and even made their way through Shawn Michaels' office, breaking right through the sheetrock. So Bron Breakker made his way out to the ring first for this match, followed by Baron Corbin. He made his way out on a motorcycle wearing a leather jacket. Match began with Breakker flying over the top rope on the Baron Corbin. They started out in the audience, finally made their way back ringside. Breakker knocked two security guards over while he was making his way back to the ringside area. Technically, the match never even began yet. The bell didn't sound. They've been on the outside ever since. I'm like, when is this match ever going to officially start? This is only match one of the 6-match card here, so let's get going. Finally, a few minutes in, they made their way in. Match began. We had Bron Breakker telling the ref to ring the damn bell. And very physical matchup, as expected. These two, no love lost. They've been at it for weeks on NXT programming. We end up on the outside once again. The commentary table that Corbin attempted to put Bron Breakker through earlier. However, this time Corbin chokeslammed Breakker directly through it. Got the job done that time. However, Bron popped up. I'm telling you, he popped up just like the freaking Undertaker. It was like it didn't even affect him in the least bit. So he popped up, spears Corbin. They end up getting back in the ring shortly thereafter. Now, Mr. Stone, formerly known as Robert Stone, the manager for Von Wagner, just as it looked like Bron was going to take care of business with Corbin and wrap things up, Mr. Stone, it looked like he jumped from the top rope or the top turnbuckle, whatever, and jumped on to Bron Breakker directly. That's a dangerous game. And Breakker caught Stone, tossing him outside the ring onto a group of security guards that were so conveniently placed. But Corbin hits Breakker with his end-of-days finisher and ends up getting the victory. So I didn't anticipate that. I thought for sure that Breakker would get the job done here. However, I understand why this happened. Mr. Stone did that on behalf of his client, Von Wagner, who a few weeks ago was viciously attacked by Bron Breakker, and things got ugly. I believe he was taken away on a stretcher. We haven't seen Von Wagner since. So best believe we have not seen the last of Von Wagner and Breakker. I'm not sure the status of Von Wagner. I'm hoping or assuming that he's ready to come back after almost a month's time away, especially after seeing Stone intervene. You would assume that, there would have to be some payoff there as far as those two having to finish their feud. So Baron Corbin got the victory there in match number 1. So match 2, we have Dragon Lee, the special guest referee for this North American Championship match. I was very torn about who I was going with here. Do I go with Dominik Mysterio retaining? We have Trick Williams, who's on a hot streak. Again, NXT review, I talking about momentum, and Trick Williams was just that as of late. He won 2 huge matchups this past week on NXT. And speaking of 2 matchups, Dragon Lee, ironically enough, being the referee for this match, lost the last 2 NXT North American Championships against Dominik Mysterio. So that, with him being involved, I wasn't sure what his role might be. Would he accidentally take out Trick Williams or so on? So get to that in just a moment. And so Trick Williams makes his way out. There, of course, the crowd behind him yelling, "Whoop that Trick." That seems to be the catchphrase. Going up against Dominik Mysterio. No Rhea Ripley by his side. No Mommy. She's still on vacation. Been a couple weeks. I'm not sure if she's returning to Monday Night Raw this week. But anyway, she's been off, taking some time, it's been said, with her new fiance, Buddy Matthews. We haven't seen him on AEW television either, pretty sure ever since they lost their trios titles at All In. We haven't seen them much. Maybe once we've seen Buddy Matthews. We've seen Brody King a lot because he's been bringing Julia Hart to the ring in a managerial role, but we haven't seen Malachi, and we haven't seen Buddy Matthews. So Dom's eye still swollen in just about every color of the rainbow. It was red, it was yellow, it looked crazy from the injury that he sustained last Monday on Raw in that winning effort against Dragon Lee. I know his eye was a little black and blue the following night on NXT television, but man, it looked 10 times worse during the course of this match. So in early going into this match, we heard some "We Want Mommy" chants. Of course, I was just talking about Rhea Ripley. I can't dispute that. I want Mommy too. But look, you can't always get what you want, right? So Dominik, he goes and means to super kick Trick Williams during this match. Trick ducked out, and Dom kicked Dragon Lee. Again, Dragon Lee playing the role of referee for this match. Knocking Dragon Lee down, obvious mistake. Williams hits Dom with a neck breaker. No referee, right? We always run into these situations where it's like, oh, where's the ref? The good guy typically is ready to win, and something like this happens. It was too late by the time an official did show up, another official. We only got a 1 count with the new referee in the ring. And shortly thereafter, this whole spot was kind of crazy looking. With this new referee that was in the ring, Dominik knocked the second ref out of the ring. It looked intentional. Now, look, I don't know if it necessarily was, if he was just supposed to, if it was supposed to be another accidental bump, much like with Dragon Lee, right? But the whole thing was kind of awkward, I gotta say. So Dominik knocked this referee out of the ring. When Trick had a second opportunity to pin Dom, yet again, no referee. Trick Williams ends up hitting Dominik with a jumping knee right when Dom was going to hit Trick with his title belt. Goes for the pin attempt again, and Dragon Lee, the initial referee, makes his way back into the ring. Counts 1, 2, 3, and new NXT North American Champion Trick Williams. I was very surprised for numerous reasons. Not that I thought that Trick Williams couldn't get the job done, don't get me wrong. A, I didn't think they were ready to take the title off of Dominik Mysterio. B, Mustafa Ali was the one who was booked in this match just a week and a half prior until his untimely WWE release, along with many others. And Trick Williams found his way into this matchup on NXT last week after inserting himself in that triple threat, making it a fatal four, getting the job done, getting this opportunity, and now getting the win here at NXT No Mercy. Very surprised, especially with Dragon Lee involved. I thought Dragon Lee wasn't done with Dominik Mysterio. I was thinking sooner or later, third time's a charm, and Dragon Lee will get that opportunity and succeed at it. But hey, this is the way it went. Ironic that Dragon Lee was the one who counted 1, 2, 3 for Trick Williams. But all that being said, I could not be happier for Trick Williams, again, getting this win against Dominik Mysterio, winning NXT Gold for the very first time. That's pretty awesome. So thrilled for Trick. Match itself was okay. Trick Williams looked good. Dom looked all right. Again, they didn't gel great, but again, the match was okay. But the biggest thing here is that the end result was very good for Trick Williams. Very happy for him. So congratulations are in order for Trick Willie, as he also refers to himself as. So the next matchup here, we have a fatal four-way tag team match for the NXT Tag Team Championships. The family, Tony D and Stacks, defending their titles on a PLE for the very first time, as they mentioned this past week on NXT, versus former NXT Tag Team Champions, the Creed Brothers, versus Angel Garza, Humberto Carrillo, and Out the Mud. So this was Out the Mud's first PLE opportunity, certainly first time at Gold in NXT. I thought it was a little premature, a little early for them to get this opportunity, not to say they're incapable. Again, on the last review show, I said, look, they ended up getting this opportunity, but I was just saying that, I could see them in the very near future winning Gold, even maybe before year's end. And here they are suddenly being the fourth team inserted here into this match. So, hey, good for them. Anyway, it seemed like red and black was the color of the night, worn by both the family and Angel and Humberto. Some nice looking ring gear out there. Now, as this match went on, I was very concerned for one half of the NXT Tag Team Champions, and that's because Tony D, at one point, he went to pick up both Angel and Humberto. Suddenly, his right knee, I believe, his right knee buckled, fell to the ground, and it looked really bad. I said, oh no, he popped something, he tore something, maybe an ACL, MCL type of injury. Not only are they going to have to relinquish, but Tony D is going to be out at least for the rest of the year, probably up until WrestleMania time, minimum, for that kind of an injury, right? So that was scary for quite a bit. Somehow, I don't know how, he was able to get back in the ring. And I think this was a legitimate concern and injury, that he was brought backstage to be checked out, right? I mean, you could say it was storyline. We've seen it numerous times, even this year, in numerous promotions. Always happens where somebody gets hurt, champion or not. They make a comeback story. They pull the old Willis Reed coming back onto the court, right, into the ring, and getting the job done or making it happen, right? And so somehow we saw Tony D come back, make his way out. Looked like they cut his pant leg. He had the knee brace on. I believe that was a prior injury he had also sustained too, to that knee. So it was already a little shaky in the first place. But I really do think they did a wellness check and to see if he was able to at least get through this match. Because when he went backstage, I thought for sure they had to call an audible. And, whether they were to retain or not from the very start, I said, look, Stacks is out there on his own, getting his ass handed to him. So I said, there's definitely going to be a new NXT Tag Team Champion when all is said and done at No Mercy. However, Tony D came out. He hit Humberto with a spine buster. Somehow was able to get it done. A really cool spot we saw with all four teams in the ring. We saw 4 superplexes all at once. Great spot. A very deserved "This is awesome" chant we got from the crowd following that. And look, what looked impossible became the unimaginable when the family found a way to win this match. Tony D pinned Lucian Price. to retain their NXT Tag Team Championships. So hey, good on them, good for them to be still NXT Tag Team Champions again. I thought it was over. It was looking very, very bad for the family. So they got it done. I think they were the right ones to win. They were my pick. And again, too early for Out the Mud to be champions. Good opportunity for them, but they're not ready just yet, especially to be champions. Yeah, the Creed brothers could have had a second NXT Tag Team title reign. I guess there's no harm in that. And if the title was going to change hands, I would have given it to Angel and Humberto, who recently made their return to NXT television, to WWE in general, after being on SmackDown for quite some time. So I thought they would have been the team to win if the family didn't retain. But I'm more than happy with the end result in this tag team match. Now, before I go forward with the last few matches here, there was some breaking news on NXT. It actually came out a few days prior to Saturday on a conference call with Shawn Michaels, but it was official to the fans on WWE television that NXT Deadline, their next premium live event, will be returning this year. It's going to be Saturday, December 9th in Bridgeport, Connecticut at the Total Mortgage Arena. So that's something to look forward to. I know tickets go on sale. I want to say October 3rd or October 4th for that, for those interested in the area. But yes, the NXT Deadline coming back. And I thought that was a very good show last year. That's where Roxanne Perez won one of those matches to get that title opportunity. It was a very short reign when she defeated Mandy Rose, but she got it done nonetheless. So now we're back in the locker room area. First, they underestimate you, then they celebrate you. That's what Carmelo Hayes, NXT champion, told Trick Williams as Melo congratulated Trick on his big title win against Dominik Mysterio and new North American champion. So that was cool to see them have that embrace. Two champs at the very same time. It was good to see them both don gold. Would they remain? Would they both remain champions before the night was over? That's another story we'll get to in just a little bit. Next up here, NXT Heritage Cup. Noam Dar going up against my boy Pete Dunne. Butch, as WWE refers to him now. We'll call him Butch, right? So Butch came out with Tyler Bate. British Strong Style has arrived. Now, the best part about all of this is nothing really resembled Butch's current character on SmackDown with the Brawling Brutes for the last year and a half. He came out there looking 110% as he did with NXT, NXT UK back in those days. He looked like Pete Dunne, right? British Strong Style, hair down, singlet with the vest. He got the fist by his chin, as he always does, his whole signature pose with the mouth guard. If you know what I'm talking about with Pete Dunne, then you already understand that this is the best look for him. And I know it's where he's most comfortable. So it was good to see that. Really brought it back to a couple of years ago. And so this 100% resembled Dunne, and the one we've grown to love over the years. Now, Noam Dar came out with the metaphor, of course, Oro Mensah, Chikara Jackson, and Lash Legend. And they're up to no good, as they always are, which we'll get to. So we're going to round one here, right? This is a 6-round type of deal with this Heritage Cup. The rules for this whole event, this whole kind of a matchup. So at the end of round one, we had a late hit from Noam Dar. No surprise there. To Butch, which was messed up. It looked vicious too. Dar's signature spinning elbow gave him that immediate advantage going into round two without question, because Butch was kind of shaken up going into round two. So with 50 seconds remaining in round two, Oro Mensah kicked Butch in the head when the referee wasn't looking, leading to a successful pin attempt for Noam Dar, putting him up 1-0 going into round three. However, Butch tied it up in round three with about a minute to go, hitting Dar with the bitter end, his finisher, to score a fall. Now here we are 1-1 going into round four. So Butch nearly had Noam Dar ready to tap right before round four ended, but that's exactly what happened, and Dar got lucky to get out of that one. He was literally saved by the bell because it looked like it was over. It looked like Butch was ready to go up 2-1 heading into round five. That wasn't the case. Again, saved by the bell. Going into round five, though, Dar hit Butch with a brainbuster on the apron. Looked brutal. I mean, any apron spot, it's usually pretty tough. That's the hardest part of the ring, right? So by this point, there was less than 20 seconds remaining in round five. But again, both men were able to make it out. I won't say unscathed, but they both made it out without taking a fall. So here we are going into the sixth and final round, tied at 1 apiece. Now, Butch had Dar close to submitting, writhing in pain, when suddenly Gallus made their way ringside. You always knew there was going to be some kind of shenanigans. It was too good to be true. I thought Butch was going to get this win going into it. However, I should have known better. He already had Oro Mensah, Chikara Jackson, and Lash Legend by his side. Now here we are with Gallus making their way out, attacking the only guy that Butch had in his corner, right? His buddy Tyler Bate. So Butch saw that, diverted his attention when he was in the midst of taking out Noam Dar, hoping to score the pinfall victory and win the whole thing. And he ended up jumping over the top rope onto Gallus. So meanwhile, Butch gets back in the ring after that, connects with a beautiful kick to Dar. But of course, Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend were distracting the referee. We knew something was going to happen there. Now the third member of Gallus made his way out, Joe Coffey, who Butch defeated to be in this final against Dar, or it would have been Joe Coffey going up against Noam Dar had Butch not beat him last Tuesday on NXT. Joe Coffey made his way in the ring to take down Butch. Now Dar pins Butch with 26 seconds left to retain his NXT Heritage Cup. So it took about 7 people for Noam Dar to retain. Again, he has no problem resorting to these dirty tactics, as he always seems to make it out one way or another, hoisting that cup over his head in victory after these matches. So sooner or later, he'll get his, but it was unfortunate to see at the end of the day. We all knew that if Butch was legitimately going to go one-on-one with Noam Dar, Butch would win without question. But that's how it went. A good match overall, though. I did enjoy it. I didn't enjoy all the outside interference, but outside of that, when the two were in the ring and things were going well, all 6 rounds between the two, it was fun to watch. So a little while ago, I made mention that NXT Deadline will be returning Saturday, December 9th in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And what I meant to mention, I was talking about Roxanne Perez, right? How she won that significant match last December to get her #1 contendership, eventually dethroning Mandy Rose shortly thereafter, after a 313-day reign as the NXT Women's Champion. But anyway, Deadline is looking to be really good. The Iron Survivor match, that's what it is for the men and women. So that should be good again. They are bringing that back. Also, another announcement, they're bringing back Halloween Havoc for the 3rd consecutive year. But this time it's going to be different. They're not just doing their one date towards the end of the month. They're making it a 2-week special beginning Tuesday, October 24th. And then it will conclude the following Tuesday, actually on Halloween, which is pretty cool, Tuesday, October 31st. So that should be great. We get 2 doses of Halloween Havoc. I'm more than okay with that. Many moons ago when WCW would host Halloween Havoc, hence where it came from. I used to love WCW Halloween Havoc. Quite honestly, one of my favorite pay-per-views for WCW when I think back to it. So that's cool. We get 2 weeks of Halloween Havoc. I'm here for it. NXT Championship match. We have the current champion, Carmelo Hayes. He's been the champ since NXT Stand and Deliver, WrestleMania weekend. The NXT champ walked in against Ilja Dragunov. This was a rematch again from July at the Great American Bash, when, of course, Hayes was able to retain. Melo always has one of the best lead-ins to his actual entrance theme. I don't think many will dispute that. I did enjoy it more when Trick Williams would do it, when he was on the microphone the past several months or years, right? When he was the North American champion 2 times and now current NXT champion. But Trick's off to bigger and better things now. He's now a champion unto his own right. And so Carmelo Hayes has to do it on his own now. So he did his whole entrance bit. It was still good, but it wasn't like having a Trick there. So here we are, Hayes Dragunov, part 2. 2 of the greatest wrestlers in NXT, most certainly. 2 of the best physical specimens as well. These guys didn't waste any time. They beat the hell out of each other right from the jump, right from the ring bell sounding. And there was one clothesline, I recall, from Dragunov that nearly took Hayes' head right off his shoulders. It was that fierce. But we know Dragunov. We know how he is. I mean, we saw the matches he used to have with Walter, now known as Gunther, the Intercontinental Champion, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. And, not for nothing, but Gunther used to have a little more weight on him. So those matches were even a little more fierce when Gunther would bring that brutality to any opponent. And he still does, right? He still does. But even then, it was rough. They had some great matches. But anyway, here, after that brutal clothesline we got to see from Dragunov to Hayes, this was followed by a chop fest. It was unrelenting. These guys let it all out. No Mercy is definitely the appropriate title for these guys to have a match on, because it was exactly that. And Melo had no choice but to turn things around because it was getting ugly quick. Dragunov was taking an early advantage. And the intensity of these two, though, wild. As crazy as Dragunov could get, you see it in his eyes. Melo amped it up and said, all right, let's go. Let's do this. So after a couple of impressive and devastating maneuvers by Melo, the crowd chanted, "This is awesome," rightfully so. But yet again, there Dragunov was, piling it on once again on Carmelo Hayes, one thing after another. It was visible that Melo was hurting. I mean, you knew he wasn't going to quit, but he was looking like, damn, He is unlike any opponent I've ever faced. I know this because I fought him back in July, but damn, this is rough. The crowd again erupts with another "This is awesome" chant during the match. These two were just, again, letting it all out, leaving it all on the line. We saw a brutal superplex spot by Dragunov, and by this point, somehow his head was bloodied. Melo's mouth was all bloodied. I felt like I was watching a movie. It literally felt like one. Melo tried escaping with a super kick, but Dragunov kicked out. Hard to believe both these guys, not even 30, both 29. And Dragunov made his way to the top rope, coming down, hitting Melo with a super H-bomb. And that is what did it. And new NXT champion, Ilja Dragunov. Much deserved. I thought Carmelo Hayes was going to squeak out. As I said on the prior episode of NXT Review, I thought he was going to squeak out as champion here. Maybe there would have been a Carmelo Ilja Dragunov 3 to wrap things up, put a bow on it, where I thought Dragunov would have probably won it there. I thought he was going to reign supreme for maybe another month or two. Maybe at Halloween Havoc, drop it to, Dragunov. But hey, this is what happened, and I'm okay with the end result. Really am. These two left it on the line. And if Carmelo Hayes was to drop to anybody, no better opponent to drop to than Dragunov. So deserved. I really enjoy watching Dragunov. The more and more I've seen him over the past couple of years, I've become a bigger and bigger fan of him because his intensity is unmatched. You could say, pro wrestling is scripted, it's planned, it's predetermined. When you watch Dragunov in that ring, you think it's blood sport. You really do. You think it's octagon, MMA. The guy is just freaking unbelievable. So what a match. Great way to start off his birthday month, by the way, too, with an NXT Championship win. I believe his birthday is October 10th. So here we are, post-match. Dragunov pulls Melo and his lifeless body up. He demands him to get up because Melo looked like he was ready to just pass out and wake up 48 hours from now. But he was even fierce post-match, Dragunov. He said, get up. He brings him in for a handshake and an embrace. Nothing but respect for these two guys, really. Consummate professional, both of them, especially Dragunov. Again, laying it all out there. And the Mad Dragon, Dragunov, could barely make his way to the top rope to celebrate after that embrace with Melo, trying to get to the top rope with his new NXT Championship. But that was even tough to hoist that up. And this should be a very good and enjoyable title reign. Quite honest with you guys, he should not lose it. He shouldn't even lose it at this point, what I'm about to say, but at minimum, he should be defending this title at NXT Stand and Deliver WrestleMania weekend, the weekend of WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. And again, I would probably have, regardless who he goes up against, I would probably have him come out on top. I probably would have him be champion for the better part of a year, really, at earliest, maybe SummerSlam weekend, right? Something like that, because not only is he believable, again, he's deserving, and he's a great face of any brand. And, being that he's with NXT right now, I think him being the face of NXT as champion, you can't do any better than that. He's fierce when he's in a freaking pre-show match. So you can only imagine what Dragunov will do as your NXT champion. So we got some last minute notes here before we got to the main event with Becky Lynch and Tiffany Stratton. That this Tuesday on NXT, we'll see Tyler Bate and Butch go up against Gallus. Gallus, again, who attacked them during Butch's match for that Heritage Cup. So I mentioned earlier, Gigi Dolan versus Blair Davenport. And so I believe those were the only two matches that were made official for the time being. So now it's main event time. We have big time Becky Lynch, the current NXT Women's Champion, going up against former NXT Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton. Now this is an Extreme Rules match for the NXT Women's Championship. And we saw Tegan Knox was in the crowd for this event. She's set to take on the winner of this match on Monday Night Raw. And good for Tegan Knox. It's good to see her get some shine, some spotlight. She's been in hiding essentially for months. And it's like every time Tegan Knox gets drafted to Monday Night Raw, it's like it goes awry. When she was initially drafted to Raw 2 years ago, we never saw her on Raw, not even for one single match. And she was let go. Then she was brought back about a year ago once Triple H was taking over things from Vince initially. She was brought back to the company, just like many others, was brought back to the SmackDown brand. We saw her here and there once in a while. And then, during the recent WWE draft in the springtime, she was drafted to Raw. Really hadn't seen her since. Yet again, it's like some curse. Whenever Tegan Knox is drafted to Monday Night Raw, she goes missing. They slap her right on the milk carton. So it's been good to see her the last couple weeks, at least backstage on Raw, in the crowd at NXT No Mercy, and for a match against the against the said champion for Monday Night Raw. So I loved Becky's video package prior to her entering the arena. I thought it was great from her early days with NXT, literally since she came out, what was it, initially dancing, not knowing her gimmick, right, many years ago, to now becoming the man or big time Bex, main eventing WrestleMania 35, defeating Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, winning the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship. She's come such a long way that it's crazy. It all started SummerSlam 2018 when she had enough of Charlotte Flair's crap. She ended up slapping her in the ring, if you guys remember, just a little over 5 years ago. It all changed for Becky Lynch, and she hasn't slowed down since. She really hasn't. So when this match got going, in the early going, Becky broke out the kendo stick, and they made their way into the crowd. We saw chains, ring steps, tool chests, and a wrench. All legal in this Extreme Rules match. Now, early on, we saw the right side of Tiffany Stratton's face was bloodied, not sure from what. Probably from one of those objects I just mentioned, and Stratton struck Becky in the back with a steel chair before long. Stratton put the chair into the corner, but it backfired. Becky tossed her into that very chair, followed by a Bexplex. Now, Becky tossed Stratton into a shopping cart and drove her into the ring steps, which actually looked brutal when she first placed Tiffany in that shopping cart. Because as you all know, regular old shopping cart, it has that little front area, which you bring out. Women, they put their purse there. Guys, we just throw some extra snacks there. And when she threw Tiffany, or at least I threw extra snacks there, when she threw Tiffany into that shopping cart, which was rough, it activated that initial front part of the shopping cart to come out. So Tiffany's neck went back from the initial boom of going in, and it kind of hit her in the back of the neck. So that had to have definitely, she had to have felt that, if not at that very moment, the next morning when she woke up from that match. I'm sure that wasn't her only bumper bruise either. So as far as that was concerned, Becky ended up tossing Stratton into that shopping cart, drove her in the ring steps. Now, what appeared to be a bag of tacks, which I thought thumbtacks was Becky was bringing into the ring. You see that big bag, that big satchel type of deal. It ended up being broken Barbie parts, resembling Tiffany Stratton and her whole presentation gimmick as such. She dropped Tiffany into them. Tiffany was on the outside, as Becky Lynch then would throw a bunch of those broken Barbie parts at her. Fortunately for Tiffany, she was deflecting those Barbie parts with the lid of a garbage can, a metal garbage can, so they were all flying out to the crowd. Some souvenirs for whoever was sitting in those front few rows. And once she got close enough to Becky Lynch, though, Becky was right at the front of the ropes, in the ring, obviously. Tiffany on the outside still was able to clock Becky right in the head with that garbage lid. Following that, Stratton hit Becky with a spine buster into the metal trash can. Eventually, Becky pulls a table from beneath the ring, but first sprays Tiffany with a fire extinguisher, then connects with a barbed wire bat. Now, after this, Tiffany Stratton jumps from the top turnbuckle onto Becky, who was on the outside, on a table, hitting her with a Swanton Bomb. Now, this was actually a very dangerous spot because it looked like Tiffany slightly overshot this spot and, barely skimmed Becky and the table. It looked a lot worse. If you go back to the footage, it was even on social media, Becky, the safe worker that she is, was able to actually, get a good hold, a good grip on the upper torso area of Tiffany Stratton, making sure she didn't go any further on that hard concrete and really injure herself, injure her back or neck. So that took place initially. And then we saw back in the ring, this was followed by a second Swanton Bomb by Tiffany Stratton to Becky Lynch. This match, incredible. I hope you guys all go back and watch NXT No Mercy in its entirety. Really, it was a very good, just a little under 3 hours worth of TV, including the pre-show match between Kelani Jordan and Blair Davenport. But really, this match exceeded expectations before I get to the finish here. And this was a hard act to follow, right? This was a tough act to follow because these two had to go on what was, after an amazing men's NXT Championship match, a rematch at that. So was this. I get it. It was a rematch from 2 weeks ago, but Dragunov and Melo put on what a display out there, and so did these women. I think this was the perfect match to call. I don't think it would have been nearly as good if they were just to be in a regular wrestling match in ring the whole time. This Extreme Rules match, whoever thought of it, I thought it was a great call. They both lived up and exceeded expectations. really. And you could say, obviously, Becky being the veteran led this match perfect. But look, take nothing away from Tiffany Stratton. She did all that and then some. So these ladies ended up getting a "This is awesome" chant, rightfully so. Crowd got their money's worth for this show, too. I mean, whoever was in Bakersfield, California that night was worth it, every penny. This match ended with Becky Lynch hitting Tiffany Stratton with a manhandle slam onto a bunch of steel chairs in the corner of the ring. And that was that. Becky retained her NXT Women's Championship. Man, back-to-back standing ovations, by the way, for the men's and women's championship match. Show was great, truly incredible. I know after the show, Shawn Michaels put out an appreciation tweet to all of the performers and to the fans and so on. But it should be very proud. HBK is doing his thing with NXT. I know there was a lot of early criticism within the last year or two about Shawn Michaels and what he's doing or not doing, what he was presented initially with NXT 2.0, the reboot post Triple H leaving and so on. From the NXT brand specifically. Now Triple H is obviously, a large majority of Raw and SmackDown he takes care of, not fully, but he has those responsibilities these days. But Shawn's doing a great job. Take nothing away from Tiffany Stratton, though. She is the real deal. And again, like I said a few moments ago, on Raw, SmackDown, when the time comes, when she's brought to the main roster, she will thrive. Future women's champion, without question. So right before the show concluded, we had Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. They embraced in the back. They were in the locker room. Could not help but notice, although they were in full support of one another, even though Carmelo was kind of like bummed that obviously he lost his NXT championship after being champion the last 6 months or so. Could not help but notice Melo once or twice glanced at Trick Williams' North American Championship and possibly looking at becoming a third-time NXT North American champion, being Carmelo Hayes, because we know he's not going to win the NXT title back from Dragunov, even if they do have a rematch, which I don't see happening. I think that was a good conclusion, their rematch, where Dragunov got the second one, the second win, lost the first time and got the title, so they should leave it at that. But I think before Melo goes to the main roster, I think we should see him versus Trick. Right now, they're on the same page. They're on good terms, but I'm very curious to see the next week or two what's going to transpire between Melo and Trick. Like I said on the last review, I said regardless what happens at NXT No Mercy, whether Melo retains, whether Trick becomes the new champion, whether they're both champions, whether they both lose and aren't champions, I said regardless what happens, I said I could easily see them having a match, a semi feud, even if one of them aren't completely a heel. Even if Trick's still the good guy here and Melo is just feeling some type of way and feels like he's missing, having gold around his waist or shoulder, which I could see. He usually has been a champion in NXT, winning the NXT Breakout Tournament in 2021. Again, two-time North American champion, former NXT champion for 6 months. He wants gold, right? And I get it. So he might just be like, hey, Trick, why don't you put that on the line and we'll go one-on-one at Halloween Havoc, either night 1 or night 2, 24th or on Halloween, the 31st. So I could see that happening. And like I said, I think Halloween Havoc would be a great place to do it. Why not? It would be a marquee matchup. Obviously, Carmelo would be the favorite, even though Trick Williams has improved greatly over the past couple of months and weeks specifically. So I think that would be a lot of fun. And I don't think, I don't think Melo will leave NXT without at least one match at minimum with his buddy, old pal Trick Williams. So that was pretty much my review of NXT No Mercy. Thought it was an outstanding show. It delivered. It was a pretty good show leading up to the last two matches. Those last two matches made what was a decent show that, it's worth watching. A must-see, great show. Would suggest to any wrestling fan, even if you're not avid on NXT or WWE products, etc. I would say, hey, go and give it a try, man. A lot of people are quick to criticize NXT the last few years. It's not the black and gold brand I remember 2014, 15, and 16. And I get that. That was seemingly a more exciting, you can say it was a better era. I get it, but there are no slouches here. It is a different era. It is much different how NXT is presented the last few years. But the quality, especially of this No Mercy event, is a must-see event. So if you haven't watched it the last couple of days, I highly suggest you take 3 hours out of your day, even if you do it an hour at a time, or at least watch the last hour and change, right? These last two matches. So I'll leave you with that. And as always, thank you for tuning in to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Dineen, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.